and you can't find and as such, well, we win cases because we have documentation, and we lose cases because we don't have documentation, something to support our claims. And someone asked me, why do you think of legal every time? It's because whenever I'm preparing for the worst case scenario. I know one of these documents that we get to issue at some point, one day or time, it could be soon or later. It could be used in court of law. So I thank you and Mr. Stefanas Galinya for really making this matter of a great importance. And then my question would be, I have seen the way of referencing their documents, but I want to ask a question. What happens? Because I've seen admin, according to the example you gave us, which is okay. But what happens in a department where we have like 4 people, where all the 4 people can issue a document? Let me use the human resource, where we have the human resource consultant. I'm just using it as an example, where I have the human resource consultant, where we have, I know they all communicate through US, um, where I have Esther, Madam Esther, where we have Madam Pesha Kwasiwe, and then also where I have Madam Roy. Those are 4 people in one department. Is there a possibility that on the reference which you have given us, the index, the reference which you have given us, someone can add their initial? I assume that I'm also in human resource. Can I add PK to show that amongst the 4 people in human resource, this document has been issued by Patrick Aziwe? Yes, we have 4 or 5, because we have those people in different departments where they can issue the same. Then secondly, we have seen admin as general. We have admin in different faculties. We have admin let me use legal, maybe. We have admin at the university secretary's office, admin at university deputy vice chancellor academics, admin VC. So also that should be clearly spelled out, that as we are trying to arrow to these different admins, if a letter only has admin 1 to show that it's an administration, maybe for this, they must specify which form, maybe admin VC, to show that it came from admin VC. And then another thing which I wanted you to give clarity on, it's the numbering, because you know how we are really trying to fight the so-called fraud. There is fraud in these things. We have these letters. I didn't see the indexing. I didn't hear something where you're guiding in a way that if Patrick is going to issue 10 letters in a year, okay, those letters should be able to move in a chronological order. If I issue letter number 1, it should have that reference which you gave us, and maybe PK in my presumption that I think, which infers that Patrick has been a legal department where we might have 2 people from that 2 or 3 weeks from now. Is that not as issued it? 001 to show that it's number 1. Then we see PK. We see our reference number has given us the same. Then I add PK 002, 003, 004. And as such, it prevents, because me, I've seen it happens in courts of law where someone brings in just documents and they say that these documents belong to the University. But if you get to backtrace, or if you get to look at the documents clearly, you really find out that it's just a document which has been manufactured. Because if I have just legal and as such, maybe our reference and then legal, and I just put that date, someone can go back anytime and issue that letter. But if it has those numbers, and if he brings in something without a number, then I'll be able to know this letter is not coming from mine. Or if there is a letter which has the same number with a letter which I issued, which obviously can't be the same case, then it will show that at least one of the letters is a fraud. Then you have to go back and verify what's a correct letter, because it can't be like I issued 2 letters. I can't be like PK issued 2 letters with 005 in 2026, unless the same person can come and testify. And as such, maybe another request that I really need to have, I know about document filing. You have explained everything. I don't want to repeat anything, and I'm okay with you. But my request would be, how long should we be able to, because we know that central registry, even the legal letters that are right, they should go in a central registry. What's a time frame? Should we be able to file these documents within your office? Because I think we agreed, or TMC agreed, that we have one central registry. We don't have a central registry for human resources. We don't have a central registry for law. We don't have a central registry for academic registry. I think what I was agreed was we can have a central registry, but with two segments. A central registry for general everything, and then a central registry where we have students, but also it's all part of central registry to separate AR from the general things that we do, the legal, the admin, and stuff like that. What's a time frame? Is it supposed to be, is if I issue out letters, should I compile them and then at the end of the year I say that these are the letters that I issued in this particular year, and as such the file is here? Oh, there's a time frame, like in after 2 weeks I should be able to file the same with you. Because here we're dealing with we have been talking about data private, data Ugandan laws. The law we are dealing with specifically here, it's a constitution, which is a governing body, or the governing law. The governing law, and then the Data Protection and Privacy Act. It's a very, very important segment of the law, because another thing that is going to be helping us with, I think, it's prevention of information leaking. We shall know whoever leaked that later like it, and that's why I recommend this particular practice. There's a lot of information that leaks, some of which I can't be able to disclose here, but it leaks, and I think for you can be like, how many people really touch this letter? Like there are 4, so one of us really leaked that letter. So it's all going to help us to prevent that leakage in information. I think those are the questions that Madam Mahomes I had. First is that is there going to be a more explanation, or is there going to be an amendment to the fact that we can add on the numbers 001, 002, 003 to show that in this year I issued 15 letters and there they are. Then 2, these admins in different faculties should be admin, if they are really allowed to produce letters. I don't know if they can allow. Are they allowed to show that admin law, admin VC, admin this? Then thirdly, I think it was on adding an initial, like in departments where we have like 4 or 5, because if you just put it there, it's hard to trace a letter which showing that it's coming from HR. It could have been written by Madam Esa, it could have been written by Madam Patient, it could have been written by Madam HRC, it could have been written by Madam Rhoda. So how do we differentiate that it's a letter? I'm just bringing them as an example, not specifically them, but because it's where I could find 4 people of different names who could maybe have powers to issue the letters. So thank you so much. I beg to submit.
Thank you so much, Patrick, for your submission and the concerns that you've put across. I'll start with the referencing, the file, the records reference numbers, Those records file reference number, they contain data or metadata. All the things that you talked about, the numbers, maybe 001 admin, stroke, maybe stroke 0, okay, 0 HR stroke 001, and then maybe the activity that took place, all that is metadata. You can always look out for the way that is easier for you to be able to identify this document. So the examples that I gave you were some of the ways in which we can reference, but we can always add things that we see they can work for us as a university. So this kind of referencing, for us to come up with a suggestion that you gave, that we should add maybe a name of a person who created this letter or who created this notice, that one is something that we need to sit and streamline, that it all works for all the departments, not only HR, and then we'll be able to come up with a unique identifier or with a unique reference number that will work for all the different departments, But even still, usually, even when you make the reference number too long, sometimes it loses meaning, It having many initials, it may lose meaning. Because I'll give an example that you gave. Maybe someone forged a letter. Maybe it was from HR and is suing the university in the courts of law. Yeah. And this letter, for me to be able that this letter is a fraudulent letter, is when I look at the reference number. When I look at that reference number, usually, I don't know if people are doing it in their offices, we need, for the admins in the different departments, you need to have a register where you register every correspondence, every letter that you receive, and every letter that you issue out. Now, when you're in that register, you need to be able to track the date when this letter was created or the date this letter was received, its reference number. Yeah, you need to track, you need to note down the reference number for that letter. So if someone went out there, yeah, and is suing the university and is presenting this letter as an evidence in courts of law that Human Resource in NDU University wrote to me this letter telling me this is how much I should earn and blah, blah. Yeah. As a legal officer, you need to look at that letter, or you need to scan that letter, and we can be able to track this letter because it has a date. If you can look at the documents that I showed you, they had a reference letter. They had a date when that letter was created. It had a logo of NDU University. It had the telephone numbers and everything. I didn't show you the whole letter because of confidentiality, but on that letter, there should be a seal or a signature or a stamp. Yeah, and remember also that stamp has a date on which it was created or issued out. So those are some of the things that I can use to identify whether this letter was forged or this letter was not from HR's office. Yeah, but the reference number cannot have all those details at a go, where it even shows that, you know, it is Rhoda who created this letter. But below you can always see the whole letter itself. If I went back and maybe you have a case in court and then you need proof, you can always go back to that register, and that register can always show that at this reference number of this document was created by Rhoda and it was on this date, and we can easily confirm whether this letter comes from NDU University or it was forged. The other thing that I emphasize is scanning. Every document that you know that can cause you to have issues in courts of law, you need to, like every transaction that you make on paper or the one that you make on your computer, you should the papers here, I'm talking about photos, you know, I'm talking about letters, I'm talking about any transaction that you're doing in your office, you need to be able to scan. So meaning the printers that we have in our offices should be configured in the way that you can scan and send every transaction that you've made on your email, and you're able to access it on your computer or on your cloud storage. So that in any case, if such things appraise, we can easily retrieve. And we're just not only scanning to our computers, we need to be able to file. Yeah, electronically, we have folders on our computers where you can be able to file each and every transaction that you have made in a day, yeah, on your computer for easy retrieval or even backup in case you lost this letter that you sent to this gentleman and this gentleman forged the letter and is in courts of law suing you. If you do not have a physical document, you should be able to look for your backup, which is a scanned or a digital photo that you have on your computer. So filing does not only end in our physical files with these files that we have, the ones that are tangible, paper-based files, but we need to have files on our computers. Yeah, for every activity that we transact in our office, we should have those files where you're able to save digital records for every transaction that you've made, because anything can happen and we lose all the paper-based records, but we can easily retrieve the digital records, and you're able to save the university from such. So file reference numbers, they're just metadata. You can always play around with them, but we need to come up, as a university, we need to be uniform. We need to come up with a unified file reference numbers, because even when I was going through these documents, I realized that each department, the departments we have, they all have different ways of, like the different reference numbers that they have. Some of them you can't, now like that example that I gave you, yes, that document belonged to university secretary. But when you look at it, it only has admin, and you realize that the different departments that we have around university, they have administrators. So it makes it complex for you to easily identify where this record is coming from. So we need to unify. We need to come up. We're going to come up with a reference numbers that work for different department, and they are uniform, so that if someone is trying to forge something, that person won't be able to get it, won't be able to do what? To defeat us. We will be able to identify our records and be able to save our university from such instances. Then the other thing you talked about was admin yeah, I think I talked about the admins in the different faculties, yeah, and also all of them are creating letters. Yeah, there should be, I think the reason that's why we have administrators in the different faculties, and most especially the ones that handle records, maybe in the different offices, they're the ones that handle records, the letters, they're the ones that receive information and all that. So basically, they are the people that it's very important that they learn records management and be able to preserve our records from being exposed outside there and also losing them. Yeah, so this referencing thing, we're going to sit down and see how we can have a unified way of referencing our files and also the records that we have in our offices. Yeah, the adding of initials, certain things we may not, metadata, like when we are doing referencing, it doesn't need to be very long, because when a reference number becomes long, it gets confusing. Yeah, it needs to be short, but someone who is dealing with it can easily identify that this record belongs to legal, this record belongs to HR, or it belongs to the deans of students. Yeah, I looked at those documents and I realized that there's something that is missing. Like our reference numbers are not uniform. There's something we need to work on them, and some departments completely don't even use reference numbers. Yeah, which is putting you in trouble when you reach court, and you cannot, like, it becomes hard for you to defend certain documents. Yeah, because certain departments are not using reference numbers. They write letters, there are no reference numbers. You have files in your offices, those files do not have file reference numbers. Yeah, so if anything happened to that file, it is hard for you to easily identify that file or retrieve that file. So those are the reasons. That's why I came up with this training, so that we can highlight certain issues. Maybe certain people didn't know, yeah, why we needed this. So we came up with this training to educate people, and then, they also get familiar with certain things. You receive a letter, you're seeing numbers on it, you don't know what that number means. Yeah, you write a letter, you don't even use reference numbers. We need those registers in our offices. Every admin in the different offices or different departments, they need to have those registers where they track every file from the date. If it is a year from 2026 January, you should be able to track all those letters, incoming letters and the ones that are going out in your office. Through this, you'll be making Patrick's work easier and also your work easier. Yeah, we need those registers. If we do not have them, we need them back so that they can make our life easier. There is some other thing that you talked about. How long do we comply? Okay, how long do we compile these records and be able to send them in the central registry? We also came up with a records retention schedule. It will be able to guide us on such issues. Yeah. The central registry usually will receive records that are inactive. You remember me talking about inactive records that we do not refer to daily. Yeah, like we do not so much refer to them. We do not so much go to them when we are doing our daily work. There are things that may be required maybe in a year. Yeah, maybe in after 6 months, such things. So meaning you're going to keep those records. Let me say if it is a letter and it is you've created a letter in a legal office, you're going to keep it for a period of time until the time you're not referring to it daily. So I would give you maybe like 6 months or a year Then when you have compiled those files, I mean, you filed, you need to file. So your file, if I'm to audit your file as a records manager, I need to cross-check your register, the ones that you've been recording, the files that are coming in and the files that are going out. And I will be able to use this file where you've been able to file all those letters, all those correspondences, yeah, in 6 months. I should be able to track them, that when I look on your register and it says that this file from legal office, it is file maybe LO stroke 001. Yeah, and it is the file, it was the first file that you created in January. I should be able to go on your file for correspondence, and I find that letter. I find that letter there with the same reference number. I think you understand me. So that's why I say that we need those registers back for us to be able to register every document that we receive and every document that we create. Yeah, and then also scanning. As I said, we need to scan those documents. We just don't leave them on the file. We need to scan them and put them on our computer. We can always work with ICT to ensure that these records are backed up for a period that we have on this retention schedule that we created for our university, and then maybe we can keep them or dispose them, like maybe burn or destroy them. So how long do we compile them? It's something that we're also going to sit down and look at. I cannot dictate right now, and I'm like, I need to sit down with the team and we come up with a period of time that we need to keep these files in your offices before you transfer them to the central registry. Yeah, central registry, we only receive inactive documents that we do not receive. We receive inactive and archival documents. An archival document is a document that is going to be kept for the university for as long as the university exists. We need to keep now, like maps, yeah, infrastructural designs, logbooks, land titles, such things, yeah, memorandums, contracts that may be between the university and other outsiders, such things, the ones that you're going to keep forever. But if there are documents that you refer to every day, those ones you'll have to keep them in your offices, but you ensure that you do proper referencing for filing and also for the record itself. And also ensure that you keep record on that register that you have in your office to ensure if anything comes up, we can easily retrieve information and provide good services to the people in the society out there, and to keep a good reputation for the university. I hope I've been able to answer all your questions. I've not left out any. I submit. Is there any other
Irene,
concern?
there is a hand. Irene, there is a hand. Esther, her hand is up.
Yes, Esther.
Yes, my hand is up. Okay. Thank you, Irene, for the presentation. Mine was just an observation about moving documents on file. Previously, if there was an issue regarding a staff and a document has been taken to the university secretary, I'm giving an example, the university secretary would not make any decision or even look at that document without referring to the file, which has now stopped that when they receive a document, they have to call the concerned officer, probably the user department or the HR department. Do you know so and so? Do you know so and so? Yet every information is available. Maybe in our next training or in all the relevant trainings to all departments, before they act on any document, they should always find out what is on file. So today I might be around and I know everything off head, but tomorrow it might be another person and decision making becomes very hard. So I would encourage that to all those offices that do decision making to always refer to files, even before they say anything like proceed, or they recommend to HR consultant, or they recommend to the department or to the dean. They should always first look at the file. That is my comment. Then the second one, you say the central registry receives documents that are in archive, something like that. But we have staff files. which are confidential and open. Currently, our office as HR is very small. We cannot accommodate even 200 files. What do you advise? How can we best keep our records? Because one of the reasons why those staff files were transferred to the central registry, it was about confidentiality. Previously, they were in that cabinet in the US's office, so everybody could access them. So now, if you say that each department to have its own records, then central registry is just does the archiving. I'm looking at confidentiality dying away. Then also another observation, previously we could not make so many copies. We could only make a file copy, then to the individual copy. So whoever wanted information regarding that matter was always referred to the file. So I don't know how we are going to handle that. It had its own advantages, that there was a lot of confidentiality, unlike maybe nowadays that a letter may be written and it is given to 7 people. And all those 7 people, we do not know their trust. And then, before even the owner gets to the letter, the whole community knows about that issue. I don't know how you can encourage, how we can handle such information. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Esther, for your concerns. I'm going to start with the personnel files that we have in the central registry, that belongs to HR, right? Now, those personnel files are inactive files. Why do I say they're inactive files? Usually, the HR should be having a system where it captures all that metadata, that information that you talked about. For example, you gave an example of US making decisions, and the US office has to refer to the files that we have in the central registry. Yeah. Usually the HR office should be having a system. For example, Sage. I don't know if you're using it in HR. Sage is one of the systems that is used by HR department. Yeah. Now Sage captures whatever information that is on a personnel file, like this file that belongs to employees. It captures all that information: date of birth, date of appointment. Yeah. It captures leaves in case someone took leave, it captures all that information. It captures in case you had maybe a disciplinary action or something. It captures a lot of things, that kind of like a system like that. So in case there is maybe a disciplinary issue that HR needs to handle, or in case there is anything that the university secretary's office that it needs to handle, if you logged into that system and you wanted information concerning Ahumuza Irene, you can easily get that information while you're using a system. You don't need to first go to the central registry to access that information. Usually, as to why we need these files in the central registry is because, like you talked about it, confidentiality, yeah? And also to ensure that we keep, like, the information that we are keeping, it's intact, yeah? You find that most of the files, the reason as to why they get old so fast, because we refer to them every day. Yeah. Why? Because we are lacking a system. If we had a system, we wouldn't be changing file covers. You find maybe some documents are missing, they are plucked out, maybe they are torn. Why? Because we are accessing something that is supposed to be inactive. We are accessing it daily. Like every day, we need to go back and look for the date of birth for someone. We need to go back and look for an appointment letter. We need to go back and look who was paid this, how much was he paid, is his gratuity paid, was his NSSF paid. Yet we could easily simplify it if we had a system that tracks and captures all that information, that can easily give you a report concerning Ahumuza Irene, how much she's paid, was her gratuity paid, was her NSSF paid. So we need these records, especially the ones you've talked about for HR. They need to be in the central registry, and we need to reduce on the rate at which we access these records. Like I said, an inactive record, we do not access it daily. It is something we can access once in a month or once in a year. So if we had like a system, it would be easier for us to reduce on that thing that you talked about the confidentiality of people's information. Yeah, these records will be confidential and they will not be accessed by many people or unauthorized people. Then there is also another thing you talked about, letters, where you're saying that you said that 7 people accessing someone's letter. That is not right. That is not right, and I don't know how you people have been doing it, because to me, I believe if I create a letter and this letter is supposed to be going to Rhoda, I expect Rhoda to be with a copy if I'm in HR, and also HR to remain with a copy. So I'm expecting to have 2 copies. If it is dean of students, and maybe there is a letter that is being processed, we should have a copy that remains with dean of student, and we should have a copy that goes to that person that is being summoned. Maybe if it's a student and is being summoned for disciplinary action, those 2 people are the only ones who should have those letters. I don't expect to have like 7 people having the same letters. Yeah, that is not right. That's why I said, like, every time you create a letter, you need to register that letter and you need to scan that letter as a copy or do a photocopy of that letter. But those letters should only be 2, not more than that. We cannot duplicate letters because of confidentiality. We don't need to have many letters that are accessed by many people. Then I think those are some of the things you talked about that I was able to track. And I saw a hand from Mrs. Barbara.
Thank you very much, Irene, for your presentation. I've learned something new, that our files are inactive records. That is something that I have learned, and I love the way you've explained it. As HR, we're in the process of doing exactly what you said. We're trying to get a system so that we have all that information that we need on a daily, accessed online. So we're trying to work on that, and eventually I think Dix is helping us with that system. Now, the other question I had, I think Patrick had mentioned, it's something to do with referencing, but you said that you're in the process of helping us with referencing. I hope I heard you right. Then the other issue, I think Esther has brought it up, about when we're writing letters, because our kind of letters, we have many people we copy to. For example, it could be an appointment letter. Then you copy to the VC, you copy to DVCAA, then you copy to academic registrar, you copy to BASA. Of course, and HR remains with a copy. So that is a bit of a problem. You've mentioned that there should not be more than 2 people. So what advice can you give us? Should the VC and DVCAA get a copy of every appointment letter? And if it is a disciplinary case? Because we were of the view that the person who is affected should get the letter and then HR. But then the question is, how does the dean or head of department know the disciplinary action that has been taken? So we need some advice on that. Because in certain cases, some of the management team, they say, don't send us hard copies. Just scan and send. So we need advice. I submit. Hello?
Oh, sorry.
Irene, I
Okay.
submit.
Yes, thank you so much. I thought
I hope I was clear.
yeah, you were.
Okay.
Thank you so much for that concern. We talked about authorization. Who is authorized to access which letter, and who is authorized not to who is unauthorized to access which information. Yeah. So according to the university, there should be a policy or rules and regulation concerning information on how information is disseminated in different offices. I may not be so sure about that, top management and everything. But as I said, we need to comply with the rules and regulations of the university and also of the country, Uganda. So I think about who is supposed to access information, who is not supposed to access information. If it is something to do with maybe appointment or payroll, yeah, maybe the BASA would want to know that people that is supposed to pay, yeah. Such information, I have a belief that BASA has authority to access information from HR, yeah, according to the rules and regulations that govern the university. Everything that we're doing, we do it within those standard operating procedures that are put in place for the university. So when it comes to confidential information, I also want to believe that certain confidential informations that certain offices, let it be university secretary, or let it be academic registrar, or the top management may not be able to access, because this information is sensitive. Yeah, this information is sensitive. It is personal. Maybe if there is any decision that they would want to take, if there is any decision that maybe a university secretary would want to take, then there should be authorization, maybe from HR. I would want to be advised, because I'm not familiar with that, with those the rules and regulations that manage certain things. They're above me. But all I would say is, even when you're disseminating information, even when you're giving out information, you have to ensure that you're following the standard operating procedures that are put in place by the university. Or even you might not be knowing, and this person might even sue you, and he refers to different regulations, maybe if they are government, and you may lose the case for that. So even as we're doing all this, we need to go back at the back of our mind. We need to, if it is HR and maybe university secretary needs information concerning this person, before you give out this information, go through and find out, this information I'm giving, am I safe? If I was taken in courts of law, would I defend myself? Or according to the university, am I defaulting concerning the rules and regulations that concerns maybe personal files? I don't know if we have, I want to believe every department has rules and regulations that they follow, standard operating procedures that are documented and they are followed and they are approved by the university top management. That's how I would answer that question. Yeah, but one thing I know, that not all information is supposed to go to everybody. There are certain hierarchies, there are certain regulations that we follow, or there should be, should I call it a hierarchy? There should be a way that we know that, concerning this information, VC is supposed to know, HR has to know, university BASA has to know, like that. This information is limited to different kinds of people according to the different departments that we have. So each department, I want to believe, because this is an organization that has run for more than 30 years, there should be rules and regulations, policies that are put in place concerning information, concerning management, concerning the different departments that we would be following when we are making decisions. So if there's any decision that should be taken, and the top management should be involved. There should be a policy or something that guides us on how we disseminate information. I hope I've been able to answer you on that. And then also, yes, the reference part of it, that one we need to sit down, because I went through those documents and I found, yeah, these documents are not streamlined, they are not uniform. The reference numbers, this we are going to sit down and be able to come up with reference numbers for unique different numbers for different departments, so that we can be uniform when we are dealing with our records. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene.
Any other submission?
Maybe Madam Irene, to supplement what you've been trying to explain about the policies. Mr. Stephanus Galinya had presented a policy and which has a schedule form, which shows who should approve what whenever this information is going to be disseminated. I think it will be out because it was presented in a previous top management committee, which also has a form in the event you really need any information to be disseminated from any particular office to the other, mostly importantly, central registry. There is something you must be able to, there's that document which you're supposed to fill in, just I think pending some few amendment, but it will be passed eventually. However, it wasn't there before. Thank you.
Any other submission? If there isn't, I would like, yes, please.
Thank you so much, Irene. I would like to appreciate the members who have attended this session. We appreciate your concerns and what you raised. And HR, I like your concern about the active records and those which are not active. But as Irene has promised, so we are coming up with more guidance on how to do the referencing as she has raised. But also for your information, Patrick has pointed on it. At previous TMC, we presented a records access policy, and now it's moving to Senate, then later it will be discussed in council from after Senate. But besides that, we had also to come up with rules and regulations governing the central registry, because those ones will help us on daily operations. The policy is there, but when it comes to daily operations, there should be rules and regulations. So they point on many of those issues, some of them which have been raised here. So we pray that everything goes well, and then before the end of this year, there will be a streamlining way of doing things and managing records in the central registry. Thank you so much, team HR and Council Patrick, for attending to the end. Mine was an appreciation and just to emphasize what has been discussed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephanus, for this training.
Thank you so much for attending. I think we'll have a closing prayer from Patience. Is Patience there? Okay, let's pray. Father, in the mighty name of Jesus, we thank you for this training. We thank you for the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding for everybody that has been able to attend this training. Father, we pray that everything that we've talked about, we'll be able to put it in action. We pray that you remind us of everything, oh God, Father. Even those that we've not been able to talk about, Father, we know that you are the source of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Remind us of all those things so that we can be able to highlight these things and be able to serve the community and also the university at large. In Jesus' mighty name we prayed and believed. Amen.
Amen.
Have a good day.
Amen.